private citizens should not be allowed to sell nuclear weapons and biological weapons. And you have a right to weaponry that you can use in self-defense. You have a right to arms that are clearly self-defense mechanisms, self-defense against crooks and criminals. You do not have a right to have weapons that are fundamentally offensive weapons, that are fundamentally there to kill people in an offensive warfare. You do not have a right to tools of warfare. And that means you don't have a right to tanks, to artillery, to nuclear weapons, to biological weapons. Now, where is that line? Where's that line that separates self-defense weapons from offensive weapons? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. I'm not an expert. You would have to have an expert evaluate it, and there would be a law that says these weapons are protected by the Second Amendment. People should be allowed to buy and sell them freely in the open market. These other kind of weapons, they are weapons that only the government can possess. They are weapons that are fundamentally there in order to protect us. They're self-defense weapons only on the scale of society, only on the scale that a government deals with, only on the scale of foreign invasion. An individual does not need nuclear weapons to protect himself from other individuals. So a government might need nuclear weapons to protect itself from other governments who have nuclear weapons. So it's a different scale. Governments should be allowed to have these weapons because they, and again, only for self-defense reasons, but the self-defense mechanism is other governments, and therefore the scale of the weapons is different. There is the argument that the Second Amendment is there to protect us against tyranny, that your right to hold weapons is really your right to defend yourself against the government or to launch a revolution against the government. And it's true that if you declare revolution, then you have a right to possess whatever weapons are necessary in order to enact that revolution, assuming that revolution is a revolution for freedom, that there's a revolution for the defense of individual rights. So once you declare the revolution, absolutely, bring in the nuclear weapons and the biological, but then it's meaningless to talk about the Second Amendment, right? But it can't be the case that the Second Amendment allows you to own weapons that are clearly meant to, annihilate whole populations. This is not the purpose the Founding Fathers had. And of course, they didn't have such weapons in their days. They were thinking of muskets and swords. And yeah, you should be able to own a musket and a sword. But in the context of modern weaponry, I don't think the Second Amendment, that is the purpose of the Second Amendment. It fundamentally, in my view, if we put a constitution aside, the purpose of a right to own weapons is self-defense. And it can be self-defense against the government because you can't match up against the government. A government doesn't come to your door just with a shotgun. The government comes to your door with a tank, with a nuke, and you can't have weapons that protect yourself against that. That requires a revolution, and for that to be legitimate, you have to declare a revolution. You have to be in revolt, and I think most of us are not.